48 hypersonic missiles and 5,200 United States sailors were separated by only 120 seconds of terrifying decision-making time. When Iran pulled the trigger that dark night, they did not start a battle, but they initiated a countdown to their own total erasure. The clock struck 8:30 p.m. at the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, the narrowest and most dangerous maritime choke point on Earth. A critical economic jugular where 6.2 million barrels of oil and 12% of global trade flow every single day. The Allied fleet led by the USS Gerald R. Ford, the most technologically advanced floating fortress in history, equipped with energy shields and carrying 5,200 souls, glided through the darkness escorted by 6 stealth Zumwalt-class destroyers. Hidden deep within the cavernous limestone of Param Island and the jagged coastline lay the Iranian ambush force, comprising advanced anti-ship ballistic missile networks and suicide drone swarms accumulated over 30 years of obsessive preparation. Before the clock strikes 0, ask yourself this critical question: will superior technology comment number 1 or overwhelming numbers comment number 2 prevail in this ultimate confrontation? At 10:15 p.m., the massive United States fleet moved under the suffocating cloak of total radio silence, while Iranian coastal radars swept the ocean surface like electronic predator eyes hungry for a kill. The USS Gerald R. Ford and her escort of 6 Zumwalt-class destroyers cut through the black water at 35 miles per hour, totally invisible to the naked eye, but fully exposed to the relentless electromagnetic scans from the shore. The deception was perfect until 1:52 a.m. when the impossible happened. As United States quantum satellite intelligence intercepted a stream of highest-level encrypted data originating from a deep underground Iranian bunker. It was no drill. The chilling command transmitted across secure fiber optic lines was brutal, and final Operation Nightshade authorized. Activate all assets and erase the targets. Suddenly, the electronic signature of the coastline screamed with hostile intent, as 12 hidden Iranian missile sites, located 50 miles inland, went to maximum power status. At 2:18 a.m., Admiral James Sterling, standing on the bridge of the carrier, wasted 0 seconds. His voice was calm, but cut through the tension like a razor, as he ordered red alert across the battle network: all ships, activate Aegis baseline 10, engage auto defense. This is not a drill. The silence was shattered by the deafening shriek of alarm klaxons, sending 5,200 sailors racing to battle stations to face an overwhelming onslaught. At 2:47 a.m., the night sky was torn apart not by thunder, but by the physics-defying roar of 48 Z-killer hypersonic cruise missiles launching simultaneously from the darkness. These were not standard weapons. They were nightmares engineered for one purpose, which was to turn the pride of the United States Navy into a burning graveyard, screaming at Mach 6, which is 4,600 miles per hour, and hugging the waves at a suicidal altitude of only 15 feet to evade radar detection. This was a saturation attack designed to overwhelm any computer system on Earth. The flight time to impact was less than 120 seconds, meaning life and total annihilation were separated by mere heartbeats. As the electronic vampires raced toward the fleet, the artificial intelligence governing the Aegis systems reacted faster than human thought. The first layer of defense, at 150 miles out, ignited the sky as SM-6 Block II interceptors launched like spears of pure light, creating a chain reaction of explosions that turned night into day. 10 hostile missiles were vaporized instantly, their debris raining down harmlessly into the black water. But the swarm kept coming. At 70 miles out, the 6 Zumwalt-class destroyers unleashed their electromagnetic railguns, firing hypervelocity projectiles that slammed into the incoming threats with enough kinetic energy to turn 20 missiles into clouds of unrecognizable metal dust. The horizon burned with the violence of the collision, at 30 miles. The silence of the energy weapons took over, as Helios high-energy laser systems burned through the optical sensors of 15 more missiles, causing them to spin wildly out of control and crash into the sea. But the math of war is cruel, and 3 missiles survived the gauntlet. These final monsters broke through the outer shields and barreled straight toward the hull of the USS Gerald R. Ford at 4,000 miles per hour. It came down to the final layer, the Phalanx CIWSR 2D2 systems, spinning at terrifying speed. The cannons unleashed a wall of lead, firing 6,000 rounds per minute, creating an impenetrable barrier of tungsten. The sound was a continuous deafening tear in reality. As the final 3 missiles were shredded just 400 yards from the carrier, the explosions rocked the massive ship. But when the smoke cleared, the hull was pristine. 48 threats neutralized. Admiral Sterling stood motionless, watching the screens as the smoke cleared, and declared with ice-cold precision that the threat is extinguished. And now it is our turn. The Retaliation did not wait for political debates or diplomatic phone calls. The United States rules of engagement were clear, which stated that an attack on a carrier strike group authorizes total elimination of the aggressor, while the debris from the last Iranian missile was still sizzling in the water. Admiral Sterling authorized Operation Thunderstorm. The response was not proportional. It was exponential. The enemy had fired 48 missiles, so America responded with 500 precision-guided munitions. The ocean surface around the fleet boiled as 122 vertical launch cells opened simultaneously on the cruisers and destroyers. 500 Tomahawk Block, 5 cruise missiles streaked into the night sky, their rocket motors creating a blinding artificial sunrise that terrified the observers on the coast. But the true horror for the enemy was not what they could see, but what they could not see. Hovering silently at 50,000 feet above the Iranian airspace were 2 B-21 Raider stealth bombers, the ghosts of the sky. They had been circling for hours, waiting for the order to drop the heaviest non-nuclear weapon in existence, the GBU-57 Massive Ordnance Penetrator. This 30,000-pound monster was designed to punch through 200 feet of solid reinforced concrete before detonating. The first phase of the counterattack was electronic execution. At minute 1, United States Growler electronic warfare aircraft flooded the spectrum with white noise, instantly blinding every Iranian radar station along the coast. The enemy was now deaf, dumb, and blind. At minute 5, the B-21 Raiders opened their bay doors. The GBU-57 bombs fell silently, guided by lasers to the exact ventilation shafts of the deep underground command bunkers. The impact was registered on seismographs in Europe. The explosion created a shockwave that liquefied the limestone caverns, burying the entire enemy high command under millions of tons of rock. The men who ordered the attack were erased from history before they could even celebrate their failure. At minute 10, the swarm of 500 Tomahawks arrived. They did not just hit targets. They deleted them. 25 military bases, 12 top-secret radar sites, and 8 ammunition depots were struck simultaneously. The fuel storage tanks exploded with such ferocity that the thermal signature was visible from the International Space Station. The Coastal Defense Network, which had taken Iran 30 years and billions of dollars to build, was converted into a smoking wasteland of twisted metal and ash in less than 45 minutes. The logic of the response was terrifyingly simple. You do not just shoot down the arrow. You burn the archer, you break the bow, and you salt the earth where he stood. At 4 a.m., silence returned to the Strait of Hormuz. But it was the silence of a graveyard. The battle had lasted exactly 45 minutes. From the first Iranian launch to the final American impact, in less than 1 hour. The military balance of the Middle East was rewritten. As the sun rose over the Persian Gulf, It illuminated a landscape of absolute devastation that looked like the surface of Mars. The coastline, which had been a fortress of steel and concrete the night before, was now a smoking ruin of cratered Earth. Satellite damage assessment confirmed that the destruction was total. 17 naval bases were leveled. 9 underground missile silos were collapsed, the pride of the Iranian Navy, including 11 fast attack craft and 2 frigates, were sitting at the bottom of the ocean. The casualty count was a tragedy of calculation. Iran suffered 3,400 confirmed military fatalities and lost equipment valued at $15 billion. The United States Navy suffered 0 casualties, 0 ship damage, and expended only 2% of its ammunition stockpile. The disparity was not just a military victory, it was a technological annihilation. The most terrifying aspect for the observers in Tehran was the behavior of the American fleet. Throughout the entire engagement, the USS Gerald R. Ford did not slow down, did not alter its course, and did not flinch. It continued its transit through the strait at a steady 30 knots, treating the entire attack as a minor annoyance rather than a mortal threat. By 6 a.m., the carrier strike group had cleared the danger zone and resumed routine flight operations, launching F-35C Lightning fighters to patrol the very airspace they had just conquered. The global markets reacted instantly. Oil prices, which had spiked when the first missile was fired, crashed back down. As traders realized the strait was open and under undisputed American control, the message sent to the world was louder than the explosions. It proved that 30 years of asymmetric warfare preparation could be dismantled by 45 minutes of symmetric dominance. Deep inside the surviving government bunkers, the silence was heavy with fear. The generals, who had promised the supreme leader that their missiles were invincible, were now trembling. They realized that their secret weapon, the saturation attack, was obsolete before it even hit the water. The failure was systemic and absolute. Intelligence intercepts later revealed that during the height of the engagement, the Iranian command and control network simply ceased to exist. Their screens did not show targets, they showed static. The Russian-made air defense systems, which were supposed to protect the coastal batteries, failed to track a single incoming Tomahawk. The Chinese-made anti-ship guidance chips in the Z-killer missiles were fried by American electronic warfare suites before they could lock on to the hull of the carrier. It was a humiliating exposure of foreign technology that had been sold to them as state-of-the-art. The American response was not just about firepower, it was about information dominance. The United States Navy knew the launch codes before the Iranians did. They knew the target coordinates before the missiles were fueled. This was the ultimate checkmate. The psychological impact on the adversarial alliance was devastating. In Moscow and Beijing, military analysts watched the data streams in horror, as they realized their exported weapons were useless against a fully aroused American battle network. The lesson cost $15 billion and thousands of lives. But it was learned instantly. You cannot fight a 21st century superpower with 20th century tactics. The smoking craters along the coast served as a permanent monument to a fatal miscalculation, proving that in the era of hyperwar, you do not get a second chance to fix your targeting data. The illusion of parity was shattered, and the deterrent value of the Iranian missile program evaporated along with the morning mist. The sun now hangs high over the Strait of Hormuz, casting light on a new geopolitical reality. The events of this single night serve as a chilling reminder to every nation on Earth that the line between peace and total annihilation is thinner than a radar screen. History is not written by the ones who start wars, but by the ones who end them with decisive finality. The destruction of the Iranian coastal defense network proves that in the modern era, deterrence is not about making threats. It is about possessing the capability to make good on them. True power is not the ability to destroy, but the discipline to hold back until the moment of absolute necessity. as the fleet disappears over the horizon. We are left with a profound question. Was this a victory for stability? Or the opening chapter of a much darker future? The cost of miscalculation is measured in ruins and ash. And today, that bill has been paid in full. Thank you for watching. To stay ahead of the curve with our exclusive military breakdowns, hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell right now.